What is going on YouTube, and welcome back to another Wuthering Waves video. Let's talk about countdowns. Well, it's a little too early for this one. I'm talking more about these. The reason I bring this up is because I've noticed that Wuthering Waves has been taking some pretty big steps lately. And what are these big steps, you might ask? It's the fact that Wuthering Waves has been putting more emphasis and really starting to flex their muscles on what I like to call out-of-game promotional material and community content. And I see this as an amazing sign that Wuthering Waves' marketing is continuing to grow and innovate and be creative, which is always a good sign in these content service games because it helps to keep players engaged and attached when the content inside of the game goes through its usual ups and downs. But more importantly, it also signals to me that if they keep taking meaningful steps in this direction, we could very quickly see more ambitious and large-scale community projects like concerts and special animated series, things to really get excited about outside of just what's happening in the game. So let me walk you through what Wuthering Waves has been doing recently and my rationale on what we could expect to see in the short term and in the long term. Remember, if you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Your support and your feedback mean a lot to me and it helps to keep this channel growing. With that being said, let's get on with the video. So let's start at square one. The thing that first got me thinking about this whole topic was these two things here. Even before we got version 1.2, we got some countdown graphics featuring zhezhi. And fast forward a little bit, we now also have the Deadline Warriors fan comic event. But what's the connecting thread between these things? On the surface, the promotional content exists outside of the game, but the important takeaway here is that there are also new concepts for Wuthering Waves' marketing and have the added element of letting us see the world and characters of Wuthering Waves in a more intriguing, relatable, and endearing way. So let me go through each of them and kind of explain what I'm talking about and why that's important. When I first saw this official art of zhezhi taking on the assignment to do the version art for 1.2, I saw it as a pretty neat and new concept for how Wuthering Waves promoted the upcoming version and also incorporated the featured character into this countdown before the countdown. And the more I thought about it, the more I started to see that this new concept had the dual purpose of building up that hype for all the new version art, version trailer, and event details that we're so used to, but also give a really necessary primer into what kind of character zhezhi is like that then allowed us to feel a little more attached and fond of. Just from her drip marketing alone, we could tell she was going to be the shy, timid kind of character. But with so little information to go off of, it was hard to be madly excited about a character that just hasn't appeared in the story yet. But as this countdown progressed, we got to see layers to the character that showed her driven and earnest side, her clumsy side, and her more cute and sweet side. And so you kind of find yourself not only anticipating to see how the version art will turn out, you also kind of find yourself rooting for this character as she's doing her artist work. And I think this was the best character to do this new marketing concept with because, well, firstly, it'd be crazy not to do this artist assignment concept with the literal painter character. But secondly, after 4 straight badass characters, it does get a little fatiguing when your characters are always being badasses in-game and doing these crazy attacks, and then the main promotional material surrounding them outside of the game is also of them being badasses. So it's a great breath of fresh air to finally get a character that's a lot more grounded and kind of just living and sharing in a lot of the experiences that people in the real world would face, which then makes her a lot more relatable and likable and builds up that community excitement around this character before her banner even goes live. So hopefully I'm able to make it clear how effective and creative this new concept of doing a countdown before a countdown is for both just building up hype for the new version, but also giving us much needed information into the vibe and the personality of these upcoming characters. And I hope this isn't something they only do once just because zhezhi is the artist character. I think it'd be amazing if they made this a staple for how they promoted each new version update. They probably already have the version art ready to go, so the real question is how would they deliver this to us while giving us that much needed context to get a better understanding of these characters and see them in a more likable and endearing way. Now what about the Deadline Warriors event? This was a fan art event that got people to create and submit 4-panel comics of random scenarios in the world of Wuthering Waves. It could have been anything ranging from quirky things happening in combat to cute slice of life moments. And I also see this as a good step because this was a pretty creative and cute way to engage the community, encourage that user-generated content, and increase the visibility and activity of the game while the excitement around the new patch is still high. The comic concept of the event also really lent itself to letting people go wild with the different scenario concepts they had in mind. Like I said before, people like to see these characters in scenarios we wouldn't get to normally see in-game, which is why a lot of the ones that do stick out are the ones that find the characters in really quirky or more grounded situations. And I'm sure this won't be the last fan art event that Wuthering Waves will ever have. They have plenty of other concepts to pick and choose from. The point is that I hope going forward, they use these kinds of community fan art events more while making sure to strike a good balance between being a concept that's accessible, and I mean as accessible as being able to draw a 4-panel comic stomach, as well as being a concept that gives fans enough leeway to be creative and distinct with their characters and storylines. So hopefully with these examples, I've been able to illustrate that Wuthering Waves has been taking many good steps to improving its community engagement by adding these different new elements to their content and concepts. And these are considerable improvements when not too long ago, we were coming off some pretty disastrous launch streams for the global side, and had some pretty strange hiccups as well with releasing Yinlin's trailer the moment her banner went live instead of, maybe releasing it a little bit earlier and actually giving people time to watch it and get hyped about the upcoming character. So now the question is, what do all these different steps and improvements in their community engagement mean for what we can expect down the line? Well, if the current trajectory of all these different steps and improvements point towards being more active and aggressive in their out-of-game content and events, then I think there's a ton of possibilities, and Kuro really has the flexibility to pick and choose which ones they want to go with. But I think we can at least categorize what we could see from Kuro into short-term and long-term projects. The short-term ones don't require as much budget and manpower to operate, while the much more ambitious long-term projects require a lot more budget, manpower, and capacity to do. In the short term, I think there's still many refinements that they can make in this aspect. The most recent case I could think of would be to get the Twitch drops to actually start on the day of the patch, rather than 2 days after, when a lot of people have already gone through the content they need to do. Streams and content creators can be a really good platform for more dedicated fans of the game to share in that community experience of jumping into new content together. So I think it's a little unfortunate that they missed the mark with the timing of this Twitch drops event, but I'm sure they'll figure it out and get it right the next time, considering this is already an improvement from their previous content creator event that literally required people to spend money and gift subs to these content creators to receive those same in-game rewards. But what about in the long term? As Wuthering Waves grows in size, budget, and capacity, it's very likely they might take on more ambitious projects outside of the game. But what would that even look like? As I said before, this could be anything ranging from concerts, live performances, live streams, animated shorts, to in-person convention events. But if I had to give my opinion as a consumer of the game, I would like it more if they first prioritize community content and events that are more broadly accessible to both their domestic and their global audience. And what I'm trying to say is I'd much rather they start with things like concerts that you can tune into online, really amping up the production value of their special live streams, and releasing special animated series or animated shorts before they really go ham on those in-person events. And the point I want to emphasize here is priority. I'm not saying they shouldn't do in-person events at all. I mean, they've already done a couple. But what I'm saying is that the order in which they do these events really matter. It would feel a little strange if they repeatedly did in-person events in select locations around the world without any sign or indication of something like a concert, a special live stream, a special animation that people around the world can also take part in. The reality is that quite a number of people, whether it be for personal or financial reasons, simply cannot make it to these in-person events even if they wanted to. And for these types of events that are primarily meant to celebrate the game and its community, it would feel a little alienating if the community was only being celebrated in these select locations, which is why I suggest they first start off with things that people can tune into or watch back online. That way, you get people around the world used to having some form of community engagement, so that when they finally do go ham on these in-person events and exhibits that people might not be able to make it to, it's not as big of a blow to miss out on, because they know there's a ton of other community content for them to still be able to take part and share in that experience. Anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Marketing and community engagement was always a big question mark for a lot of people going into Wuthering Waves, so it's nice to see that they're making steady strides and improvements in that aspect. The big question going forward will be how they expand and be more ambitious in these community events, and what sort of new and creative concepts will they bring out in the future. Let me know down in the comments what you think. What has been your experience with community engagement in Wuthering Waves and in other gachas? I'm excited to see what you guys have to say. Anyways, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. Please consider leaving a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye!